Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I'm so excited to have Corin Grillo with us. Corin is a #1 best-selling author of the book The Angel Experiment. She's also a licensed psychotherapist, an LMFT, a transformational retreat leader, business mentor, and spiritual instigator. Corin, it's so great to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks so much. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I don't believe in random chance, and I believe I was led to you. So I'm really
Really?
excited for us to have this conversation. Yes,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Were the angels at work in your
They're
life?
they're at
Nick?
work all the
That's
time, every
amazing.
single day.
I
Here, I just
love it.
thought they sat back in their hypothetical lawn chairs until the moment where I'm about to step in front of a truck, and then whoosh.
You're like, pink,
Yeah,
look.
yeah, but that's about it. No, they're very busy in my life every single day, and
Oh,
yeah, I
great.
just got this visibility into like the veil has been lifted this year for me to see
This
this.
year,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, in January 22nd.
Really, you have the date. I
Yeah,
mean, can you share with me what happened? I mean, how did that veil lift? I'm a huge fan of veils lifting.
yeah. Well, I prayed for God to give me a job. I was inspired by another podcast guest that I had had on, Sheila Gillette, and her story of how she prayed for God to give her a job when she was on her deathbed, and she was miraculously cured. And she then was given the gift of psychic abilities. She's been channeling 12 archangels by the name of Theo for 40 some years, I think. Long time, since the
Wow.
70s. And yeah, she's such an inspiration. She's really, really amazing. So that's what happened is I decided to pray for God to give me a job, and I didn't want to have a near-death experience to get it. So next morning I had this new sight, this clairvoyance that has been developing and expanding as time's gone on, and I'm becoming much more into the spiritual side of things in terms of my listeners are hopefully not getting sick of it that many of my episodes are very spiritual oriented and fewer of the biohacking ones, but it's because I'm so excited.
I totally get it. Oh my gosh, I totally get it. Wow, that is so awesome, Stefan.
Well, what's
Yeah.
your origin story? How did you start getting messages and communications and all that?
Yeah, it's such a weird, yeah, it's like a really random, weird story, I guess, random event. Most of my life, I really struggled a lot with depression and with just mostly just wanting to be here, just wanting to be on the planet. And I was going through another rough patch, which was really indicative of the first 35 years of my life. And, at this stage, I was working full time for county mental health. I had a 3-year-old at home. I had just started working full time for a few months, and it was torture because I was a stay at home mom before that. And I was trying to, help kids, gangbangers, and at risk youth get stabilized, which is a really hard job to do. So I was really burning the candles at both ends. And so I was a psychotherapist doing my thing, but what people didn't know was that how I was surviving was by drinking about a fifth of tequila every couple days, and um, I was on antidepressants, I was on Adderall, and it was just like this treacherous roller coaster ride. And for most of my adult life, I think it's indicative of really faking it till you make it. So on the outside, I really presented as a normal, functional adult, married, have a house, have a kid, have a career. But on the inside, it was just pure torture. And it always had been torture, probably since my teenage years had been torture just to kind of be in this skin. So, so yeah, I was just having a rough patch, and a friend of mine, it was my birthday. She bought me an angel healing. I never like, I didn't really know what that was, but in my mind, I converted it into like, oh yay, a psychic reading. That sounds fun. But when I showed up, it was really she just was nailing it, and I was like, oh shit, maybe angels are real, and and that's really kind of how it started. At the end of that session, I felt a lot better, but she said, your angels, you have a lot of them, and you should talk to them and talk to them as if they're real. And then, they want to help. And I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. So that's what I did. And then huge synchronicity started happening right away, and then I witnessed a huge miracle that when I saw it and when it happened, it was so game changing and mind blowing. And at that moment, it was during the day. I was driving through the ghetto, one of the ghettos of Los Angeles, going to a client's house. So it wasn't like, so out of the blue. But yeah, so this miracle, it really changed like how I viewed everything, including what was possible for not just me, but for all of us. And so that led me on a journey to listening to a different voice that was inside of me that was really guiding me to do life differently and to maybe take more risks, but to start saying more yes instead of so much no. And then within I guess a few years, I was led to, start including healing and angel work in my psychotherapy practice, which was a very awkward transition. And then eventually led to start teaching around the world and reaching out to more of a global audience.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird process.
That's so cool, though. And what courage it took to pivot in that way and be willing to take on the ridicule and the disbelief and the ostracization. I don't know. The
Yeah.
being ostracized, like that is courage. That is courage.
Yeah, I think it took a while. I didn't really talk about the miracle to people. When something like that happens, you just want to like scream it from the rooftops, like, we're all saved, people. Like, all of a sudden I felt like a gosh darn, born again Christian, which is the antithesis of who I am and what I lived by, back then. And still now, it's like not who I am, right? So, but all of a sudden it was like this upswell of positivity and hope and it was very awkward. So I did not talk about it because I knew as a psychotherapist, when you talk about, hey, I watched a bird heal, be healed and divide into three and fly away. It's like, clinically that's called magical thinking and is an indication of psychosis. So I knew like not to say that out loud. So it really did take me a while, but to really step out of the angel closet is what I call it. And yeah, the process of confronting your identity, and the roles that you play. So for me, it was the role of a psychotherapist. I took a lot of training. I invested a lot of cash. I worked hard for that license. And here I am wanting to go, hey, there's angels here. Can I just like share a message with you, kind of thing? And but when I decided to really start taking that risk and at least saying it out loud to the people who were in my office who were, struggling for depression for years or whatever, and then there's an angel here, and I try and hold back, and then I would finally just go, hey, you want to hear something weird? And they always go, yeah, of course I want to hear something weird. Like, what else am I doing? It was really fascinating how quickly people started getting more light, just feeling lighter, brighter. A lot of people started saying, wow, I just stopped crying. I've been able to sleep for the first time in months. And so I just felt like at a certain point, I had an ethical obligation to just name what was actually happening and to share that with more people and face the ridicule and face the my peers, essentially, that were, had probably had some pretty interesting things to say in the beginning. But I didn't become a therapist for them. I became a therapist to help.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And, what I'm thinking about while you're talking is the book, Many Lives, Many Masters. Have you read that book?
No, I don't. I've heard of it.
It's,
Yeah.
it's by Brian Weiss here. I even have it right here. I'm
Oh,
actually
yeah.
reading through it right now. And there is a story in here. He was a psychotherapist, and he was working with a particular patient or client who had all this anxiety, and it wouldn't get healed from regressing back to earlier times in her life. And then when he asked, go back to where this particular issue started, she started talking about a past life. Mm-hmm. And he was very skeptical very pragmatic, but just open-minded too. So he was willing to hear her out in the hypnosis. Like, this was not just fanciful, imaginative thinking. And so then, in between lifetimes, so she would recall different lifetimes, and they'd work through these different issues. And then a different voice came through that was in between lifetimes.
Oh.
And there was this one moment, I'm going to find it here in the book, where she, in this kind of husky voice, shares some things with Brian that she couldn't have possibly known. Stuff that was like shook him. And there's a part where she knew, or whoever was speaking through her knew the name of the Hebrew name, not the name that he went by, but the Hebrew name of his father, and that was the name they used to name their daughter. How would she have known this? And then some other personal information.
Wow.
It was spooky. And that was a big turning point for him. Like, there is no way that it's undeniable proof. It's not something that could have been manufactured or made up. And some people who are very skeptical need that in order to be shaken awake. And I was very skeptical up until the point where I had my first spiritual awakening in 2012. I would have been that guy. I would have been a very skeptical, closed-minded person in a way.
Yeah, but I think that it's the skeptics that make the best spiritualists, because in a way it's like, because you're not just buying everything hook, line, and sinker like so many people. I think we need a healthy level of not just skepticism. I think in a higher octave it would be discernment.
I like that. I like that term, discernment. Yeah, skepticism I see as very close to cynicism.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous line between those two, and so I try not to even be a skeptic. Willing suspension of disbelief. That's what I try and practice throughout my day.
Yes, exactly. For me, I am not a sucker either. I would have been, I don't know, I've always been kind of open-minded, but I'm not someone to just buy into, everything. I really did need my personal experience. I needed that. I needed a big something, a big cosmic smack upside the head. And that's really what it took for me to be like, okay, I'm listening. Like, what's going on again? Tell me what's happening. But, not everybody needs that. And some people are just already just kind of open and dialed in. They just need maybe a little refinement, a little focus, a little more devotion, a little more commitment, or, whatever it is that you need to get there. But I needed a serious 180.
Well, it seems like a lot of the children that are coming into this world now are very spiritually evolved. They don't need the smack upside the head, figuratively. They're already masters. I'm feeling like a student in comparison to my my little 1.5-year-old. Like, wow. It's like,
that is so great. Yeah, I just got chills for that. I agree. I think the schooling system is a little reversed, and I think it should be the opposite way. The children should be teaching us right now, and they are teaching us. My daughter's really special too. She just says that, and I'm just like, what came out of your mouth, And so she doesn't need some work. She doesn't need work. She just needs protection. She just needs like an open space to just be who she is. And I'm like, okay, so tell me what else. Look, what else should I do? But yeah, the kids, man, they're so special. And the humans, they're, the adults, we're like yourself, waking up at really alarming and awesome rates,
It does seem to be happening. Yes. Like a lot of people I talk to, I never think of as very spiritual or as woo-woo. And like, oh yeah, last year I saw an angel. Like, what?
Like when you start inching out of the closet, so does everyone else. And then everybody, like, they have a story. Like, that's one of the things because when I started coming out of the closet, maybe about 7 years ago, I thought that some people did have intense reactions, but more people than not are really open to it. And so I've been kind of tracking this awakening for a while now. It does seem to be happening at more intense rates. I went through a period last year where I was getting contacted kind of randomly by different CEOs, male CEOs, and I'm not sure how, I mean, it was like a referral from someone, and I'm like, where are you guys coming from? But it was like the same profile of male coming in, running companies who like have no one to talk to about their spiritual awakening because they were skeptics and just doing the man like power thing. And then all of a sudden their heart opens. They don't know what to do with it. So it was really fascinating. It was the stream of four different CEOs running companies, and it was like they were like brothers, even though they didn't know each other. But they woke up around the same time, and Spirit was like, "Well, Corinne's open for now. Just go to her. She'll kind of calm the waters for you, get you oriented." But yeah, it's so inspiring in one way. What's happening if you're kind of dialed in? There's a real, I think this year in particular, a real opportunity for a rebirth for all of us, a reinvention. And I feel like, for you, since you kind of went, whoop, okay, I got my clairvoyance going in January. It's just the beginning of a big transition for you. And that's kind of what I've seen over the years in helping people move through that transition is you gotta throw everything out the window that you used to think or know about who you are and why you're here, and really start listening deeply. So what process of that are you in, or do you have a sense that there's going to be bigger transitions for you and things like that?
Oh yeah, very big, very big.
Scary. Is it scary? Are you scared?
No, I'm not
Oh,
scared.
good for you.
No, it feels like I'm becoming more of who I am
Who
and
you've always been,
who
right?
I've always been. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and
that's so, yeah.
it feels uh, like I'm coming home.
Oh, that's wonderful. And again, like that is the opportunity, I think,
Hmm.
or for many of us who've never quite felt at home here, who've maybe had, the struggles of having to belong in a place that was fucking irrational to belong in. That, it's when we find like other people, or when our heart starts getting activated, I think there's a couple things that can happen. One is that you can become terrorized and feel like you're going crazy, which in fact you are, but you want to be crazy in an already insane world. You want to be like on the other spectrum on some level. But usually what they'll do is give you just enough that it's palatable for you to make those changes. You might not see the full picture, because had I seen the full picture of my life 10 years ago, where are we today, right? Where I'm reaching tens of thousands of people all over the world, and I'm doing interviews, and because I consider myself an introvert, right? Or I used to consider myself an introvert, very private person, but they will give you just enough so that you don't freak out and run for the hills. So just enough. But yeah, I love how you are saying it's like coming home. I remember when I was younger, I always had this vision for when I was finally in my 40s. Not that I ever thought I would last that long, but when I was finally in my 40s, I was going to start doing good work, right? Even though I had no sense of purpose, no sense of like even wanting to be here, but there was something in me that knew that something would happen to me, and and then it did. So yeah, we have it in there. We're all here, and the whole life purpose thing, quote unquote. There's a lot of rumors going around about it. But those of us who are like listening to shows like yours kind of do have a sense we're here for something,
Yeah,
even if we don't know what it is.
yeah.
How long have you known that for yourself?
Well, I've always known that there was more for me. I just didn't know what. And then I had this kind of I don't know. I don't know what to call it. It was not a midlife crisis because I was young, but it felt like it. And it happened when I dropped out of my PhD in biochemistry, because I thought, oh, I'm going to cure cancer or something really important like that. And then I dropped out to start an internet company. That was in 1995. And I had this thing kind of like imposter syndrome for many years. I did have some imposter syndrome, but I also had something similar, kind of a related disorder called comparative success syndrome, because I would compare myself who I was now versus the version I would have been if I had stayed that path. Maybe I could have cured cancer. Maybe I could have made some big impact on a disease or whatever, and saved a lot of people. But now, in retrospect, I see I did exactly what I was supposed to do. Like, the path was perfect, and it made me who I am, and I'm supposed to keep on this path, not regret not taking a different path. And when you were talking about the crazy ones, or thinking of like thinking of yourself as crazy, but in a more healthy way, or more evolved way versus the rest of the insanity, it reminded me of the Steve Jobs quote. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but it's, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do."
Ooh, wow, that is solid. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I my quote is, "Weird is the new black." Crazy.
I like that one too. It's easier to remember.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a way, it's interesting. There is a way that if you are a grounded human, that you will be received, right? You'll be received with it, with your with the wildest, I mean, for me, in my wildest imagination, I never thought that people would ever take it seriously, the stuff that I talk about. Angels, or miracles, or activations, or life purpose. I just never thought that people would take it as seriously as they do. But when you're speaking the truth, people can really receive it. So if in fact you're not officially diagnosably crazy, the likelihood is that you'll find your people that really need your work. They really need the message.
Yeah. And they just show up. It's
They show up.
You don't even have to do marketing.
No.
Suddenly, after this awakening in January, all the leads that came through my company is an internet consultancy and agency, and we do search engine optimization. Almost all of the leads that came in from that point forward were a vibrational match. Like, it was amazing. Oh, and then the rate of these folks coming in more than doubled. And I didn't do anything differently. The spigot just got turned on for me. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's like what I was talking about with the CEOs all of a sudden coming in. I didn't even like promote that I do one-on-ones, because I don't really do a lot of one-on-one anymore. I'm mostly, teaching and training and things like that. So it's just like, okay, when it's your turn, when you get the job, you get the job. You can do your job, work with these people who are doing cool stuff in the world, and move on. But yeah, I mean, I love the balance. I love receiving whatever spirit has to give me, and then also marketing. But marketing as a way to me, marketing is about, it's just an invitation. So spirit had to really walk me through kind of breaking down my previous, what's the word, resistance to marketing and sales. Because what I know about gifted people is that a lot of them want to hide out and just stay hidden, and then that's it. And I wish that was my path. That was my path for a while, and then they're like, "No, time to step it up a notch, be more visible," and things like that. So they had to really walk me through how to be more courageous and more, what felt like at the time, pushy. But what they showed me was, it's really about putting up the signal so that your people can find you. And if you're on a international scale, you have to like somehow put yourself out there. So they gave me this really sweet, like, way to work with marketing in a way that feels super loving and aligned, and that I'm essentially just writing invitations to people to the best parties I can dream up for people. So my classes or any environment that I create or retreats, to me, it's like, this is the next party we're having, and here's my invitation. But Spirit has always shown me there's specific people, and shown me for all of us and for the people that I coach in business and stuff like that, that there's specific people that need your work and they surely can't find you when you're hiding. So you have to reach your hand out because they already have their hand reached out. It's like this empty hand waiting for the right person. And if you don't reach your hand out, then you're really, you're not doing your work.
Yeah.
You're not doing it.
Yeah. So a way that my friend Anil Gupta, who was a guest on this podcast a while back, he's the author of Immediate Happiness. He told my wife, Orion, one time that people, because you're not stepping up and showing up with your marketing and your being on video and all that sort of stuff, because you're not doing this, because you're not out there coaching. This was a while ago. She is doing this now, but people are dying. People are dying, and that really shook her. She took that to heart.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. I'll tell you the actual vision, the first vision they gave me that made me go, okay, I'll do it, is I was walking through, it was this whole vision of me walking through this village, and the village was composed of children and they were very emaciated, and they had their hands outreached, literally they're like reaching out, and as I would touch them they would become like ultra healthy and radiant. And they said that those children are yours, and that your job is to put your hand out. And so then the implication is, if I don't, they're going to starve and die, almost like what your friend said. And some people think that they, especially heart-centered people, by hanging back, they're being humble. They're doing God's work and they're waiting to receive from God, and they're not going to be too forceful. But what Spirit actually showed me is that that is the most selfish stance that you could take. That's the most self-involved and egotistical stance you could take, because you're not willing to sacrifice your identity as a shy person or humble person,
Or an introvert.
or an introvert. All of those identities, those roles, that you arm up yourself, and that's really all it is just armor. So your trust has to come from just a deeper place. And I found myself in the beginning starting to take very awkward steps that I would never have taken before, whether it's investing in different trainings or investing in my own freaking business, or like my website, or like business coaching. Like all of that stuff was so like nothing I would have ever done before. That new voice inside of me was like, well, why don't you just give it a shot? It's like, okay, let's give it a shot then. So that's just a little pep talk for some people listening that are kind of still hanging out,
Yeah. Yeah.
waiting for that magic moment. Now's the time.
Yes. This is the wake up call.
Yeah. Quit being selfish.
Oh, awesome. And there's so many people that we can help that are important to us. If all we did is just showed a little bit of courage and shared something a little bit out there, a little bit woo-woo, right? So we're given all these intuitive hits that we might not speak out or speak up on. And let's say it's an old friend, you're having lunch, and you get this intuitive hit. You don't recognize it as an intuitive hit, but you get this little idea that pops into your head that you should tell them to read the book Many Lives, Many Masters, or whatever. And they don't seem that woo-woo, and that would really make things uncomfortable for the rest of the lunch, potentially. And so you shy away from it, and that person misses out and goes a completely different path, maybe completely off the rails, because you didn't have the courage for 30 seconds to just blurt out something that came to your head that clearly wasn't from you. In retrospect, it will be clear that it wasn't from you, and it was meant for you to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Such a good point. And I like how you say in retrospect, because a lot of times when you're getting guidance, you don't know it's guidance. You just feel like it's like an urge or a thought or a passing fleeting moment. And, over time, by taking that risk over and over, you realize, okay, I have to act on, I have to say something. I mean, there's been so many moments along my life where I've shared, not just as my career, but where I've done that, here, read this book or check out this kind of meditation or that. And I still today, over the last 20 years, I still get people emailing me, old friends or whatever, and they say, "Do you remember when you said XYZ?" And I never remember it, but ever. But like, "Oh, I did? Awesome." Where they're so grateful that they learned about Vipassana meditation or ayahuasca or whatever. It's like it starts their life path, and you never know, just by sharing the weird stuff,
Yeah.
who it's going to save, whose life it's going to save. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and sometimes it might be your life that it saves. Like I was reading the book She Talks with Angels by Michelle White Dove, and she was describing this scenario in her earlier years when she was essentially warned to not go on this outing with friends. She was in the passenger seat. The car was full of teenagers or young people. I forget her age and everybody's ages. But halfway down on the trip, she gets a strong urge to get out of the passenger seat. And so she asks if anybody wants to trade seats with her. And somebody did, so she's in the back seat. She was the only one who lived. And
Whoa.
it was touch and go. She would have certainly died if she stayed in that passenger seat. But yeah,
Mhm.
when the crash happened and everybody died, she was bleeding out on the road, and she was told, "No, your work's not done here." She really wanted to go to the light. It looked so good,
No,
felt so good, but no, she had
yeah.
work to do, and so she was sent back, and her life was saved, and she's been doing a
Mm.
lot of good work. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's just so mysterious, right?
yeah,
So mysterious. But yeah, learning to develop that voice and learning to listen to it is so so key, which is why I spend so much time trying to, help people, teach them how to open up their gifts, right? Because I mean, you can do that. I love how you did it. You're just like, "Hey God, give me a job," and it's like, Shazam, you're an oracle now. Yay. Sometimes it works like that, sometimes it doesn't. But if all the people I've trained over the years, and I've trained people all over the world, a lot of them don't have officially in their mind any spiritual gifts whatsoever. They don't have clairvoyance, clairsentience, and it takes like our first class for essentially everyone to be like, whoa, because they can either feel something or see something or do, so it's like we are hardwired for this kind of experience. We are, in a sense, hardwired for a mystical experience. And
yes,
once we started putting everything under a microscope and got a little too far off track into just materialism. Now I'm a huge fan of microscopes and molecules and science, but once we started divorcing the mystical experience from the material world is, I think, where we got led off a little track, but I think we're in the process of bridging those things together, which is why highly rational humans are getting activated and going, well, okay, maybe there's something a little bit more to just what's under the microscope or the telescope, and you don't have to be a religious zealot in order to have that experience, right?
yeah. Yeah, so true. And I remember recently reading about there's a kind of a secret message, not so secret, but it's encoded in our DNA. It's a beautiful quote, and here I'll
Oh, I
find it.
think I've heard of this one. Yes.
Yeah, Greg Braden.
Oh,
Uh,
God.
yeah, I love Greg.
Oh, my gosh. Give me a break with that guy, right? He's so good.
he is so good. So there's
What's that show on Gaia that he does? I haven't seen all the seasons, but
oh,
do you
I
know
don't
which?
know that show. Yeah,
Oh,
I
God,
don't
it's
I
fantastic.
don't have much time to watch TV, even if it's on Gaia.
I know. No, but this one is particularly good. You would like it.
Okay.
Missing links.
Missing links, yes. So that's the show. Yeah, in fact, he wrote a whole book about this. It's called The God Code.
Yeah. And it's in our DNA, right?
Yes, it is in our DNA. If you convert the C, G, A, and T, and I forget how you do the translation or whatever, but it becomes it's beautiful. Yeah, Michelle White Dove, she has a Patreon, and I'm in it, and she'll include stuff in her Patreon for her Patreon community, and that's how I first learned about the DNA code. And then of course I Googled it and looked up all the details around it.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I'm surprised I forgot too. Is it God eternal within the body?
That's it. Thank you. So,
That's it.
yeah. So God eternal in the body. You found it faster than I did. Good job. And I even have a book on how to find stuff on Google called Google Power Search. I should have found it in like 2 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay.
My
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
ego is like, oh, Stephan.
I know, it's crushing, isn't it? It's crushing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a pretty impressive and amazing message, and humbling too,
Yeah.
to have that in our DNA and not have it be like something recent that somebody inserted in, like Monsanto or something, but have it encoded for
Finally,
eons.
Monsanto had nothing to do with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, what's so interesting too, Stefan, is that I've been getting a lot of messages, and it's been like this year has been so like next level for me as far as just the downloads and the consciousness that is happening. It's like I hate to call it cosmic consciousness, but it's been really cosmic-y. And because cosmic consciousness has the whole like new age thing. I mean, I'm just saying it's been very officially cosmic-y. There's no other word for it. But anyways, Spirit has been showing me a lot about I guess enlightenment, for a lack of better word. There needs to be new words for that because they all have this mental architecture around it that's still a lie. So it's like, enlightenment or ascension, all of it is just still like, from my perspective, really not quite there yet. But that we have spent a lot of time in our spiritual practices in a way transcending form, transcending the body, transcending our passion, transcending emotion, you know, transcending the ego, if you will. A lot of our meditative practices and even that, like in the New Age movement, it's not called enlightenment; it's more like ascension. I'm going to ascend to the fifth dimensional plane, and I'm going to do. Have you heard all that stuff?
Hmm.
Okay, so
It is off-putting for people who are not like plugged into that community yet.
yeah, yeah. Well, it is off-putting, and it's from my perspective. What spirit shows me is that it's not. It's the opposite direction. It's not about ascension. It's about descension. It's about going deeper into the body, going deeper into the DNA, and really inhabiting your body space. And it is God eternal within the body. They're pointing us to like, stay here. There's nowhere to go. Like, stay here. And to me, it is like a lotus unfolding. It's like, be in the body. But so many of us are so profoundly traumatized, and I think that a lot of times that's at the core of a lot of our spiritual urges is our trauma, is trauma informed, to leave the planet, to escape this world because it is a little peculiar, this place. But again, the messages I'm getting is that it's about bringing who you are on a cosmic kind of being, cosmic consciousness level into the body, not you escaping to the fifth dimension. It's bringing the fifth dimension into this physical, or what, I don't even, what the fifth dimension, whatever, but bringing that beingness, whatever that is, bringing home into the body.
Yeah, yeah. Another way to put it that I have heard quite a lot about in Kabbalah, because I'm studying Kabbalah, is the
Me too.
vessel. Oh yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
our
I've
body
been
is the
studying
vessel.
for a while.
And if we expand that vessel, then we can take in more light. And the light is everywhere. And we
Yeah.
can be more of a light for others if we can just expand our vessel. So just be a better version of you. You don't have to uh, levitate or anything like that. You can just be more present, more grounded, more
Yeah.
available, more loving, more unconditionally loving. And don't neglect your exercise or your nutritious eating or anything like that, because you are inhabiting a physical body and you need to take care of that. You know, that's your temple for this lifetime.
It's the temple. It is the temple. Yeah. And again, it's in order for spirit or the light to inhabit more of this, it's not just the physical toxins, right? It's the emotional toxins, the trauma that we endure, not just this lifetime, but for many lifetimes. And I'm now, getting to a point of, it's essentially also the trauma of the gods that get activated, the archetypal trauma that we're kind of repairing and reworking, and all the mythos around our cultural stories and narratives and all of this stuff. I mean, it's pretty solid work. But yeah, I like the way that you kind of for me it's summing it up, which is being who you are, first of all, just allowing yourself to be who you are unapologetically, trying to, like, what's it called, dismantle the kind of the patriarchal version of who we are, and the patriarchal version of spirituality, which is very disciplined and kind of judgy and righteous and puritanical. That has created more shadow than anything, more dark, just a bag of tricks that we don't want to look at. So I feel like our work right now is just integrating who we are, the good, the bad, the ugly, and allowing ourselves to be all of that, and allowing our hearts to move, to pursue things like happiness, as opposed to just things like being good.
Hmm.
Just pursue our happiness, and that happiness then radiates to others.
Right.
But it lights that flame. That's what we're designed for.
Yeah. That happiness is our birthright.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of, from my perspective, I'm here to partay. I'm here to party, and to to invite people to parties. Like I said, like, I understand who I am now. If it's not a party, I'm not coming. And and my parties can look a lot of different ways. It doesn't mean it's just about fun. It's got to be engaging, right? It's got to be like, ugh, like yummy on some level. And for me, I'm a huge fan of the darkness as much as the light, right? So it's not just about I'm a light worker. It's about I'm all of this here, and really embracing our humanity, all of it,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's a trick, especially when we're looking at what we're in the face of, which is, these pretty intense patriarchal values, and we're right in the middle of dismantling and healing the masculine, healing the patriarchy and bringing it back to love, and healing the dejected feminine, bringing it back to love. And, like, can we all just work together? And again, there's a lot of work to be done, but the key is, right, just to, like, be happy. That's what I learned from the angels. They started guiding me on a path towards joy, not towards responsibility. It's weird.
Yeah. That makes
It's really weird when you think about it. It's not how we grew up.
No, it's not. But the way we grew up was programmed. It's a schooling system and a conformity system. And so when a little child sees and talks with angels, or with Jesus, or with loved ones who have passed, and then they get dismissed, ridiculed, treated poorly by even their most trusted family members, their parents. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you talking to? You look like a freak. Stop it. There's nobody there, right? That sort of stuff just shuts the door on their connection with Source, with their angels, with their psychic abilities. They feel like a freak, that they can't let themselves be open to the unseen world.
Hmm.
It's really sad, but it's very, very, very important that they be allowed to cultivate those gifts, because our planet, our humanity needs it right now very badly.
Oh my gosh, so much so. And I think, especially as I started really digging into these, the energy work and energy healing and spiritual healing and all of this stuff, it's like, what on earth are we teaching our children? Like, why are we spending so much time just, again, focused on materialism, which is great. But we need the balance, like just to like understand themselves as energetic being and just boundaries in general. Because if you don't understand like how energy works and you are energy, that's a big like know thyself kind of situation that you don't know. And I came into this work so much later. But just think about like where our kids would be if they kind of honor their heart, and really feel into and dial in their spirituality in a non-oppressive way that's not about control, not about power, but about expansion and like doing good
Yeah,
authentically.
yeah,
you know
yeah.
so there's some work to do there. Yeah, I often fantasize about developing some kids programs, somewhere down the line when I somewhere down the line that'll happen.
Yeah, I have a friend who's in a mastermind I'm in who told me that uh, his daughter was talking to Jesus,
Oh,
and I told him at one point a few weeks later, like, I just want you to know that that's real. She actually is, and probably she is hearing Jesus speak back to her. So don't disbelieve it.
I know, write it all down and listen up, live by it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, how do you know who your angels are, and how to best work with them? Like, uh, I don't know. I got this. I don't know if it's a message or this intuition, this feeling that one of the angels who's working with me is Archangel Tzafkiel, and I had never even heard his name until this year. I didn't know there was an Archangel Tzafkiel. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah, I'm curious to hear how this shows up for you.
Yeah, so the first archangel that I was in touch with was Archangel Michael, where I knew like he was helping me. And I think because I had so much low end inside of my body, so much fear, trauma, worry, all those things that literally prevent us from stepping onto our path. So he comes around to help ignite and help light up the path for you, but also lighten your load so that you can get to your gooey center, your essence a little bit more. So he was very prominent in the beginning because he's like a warrior. He's going to help urge, cut through help you cut through the crap. But I've noticed in different phases that I'm in. So, so like when I started officially stepping onto my path and teaching more, Raziel came around a lot more, who's the magician. And so Raziel definitely represents, I feel, more who I am at a soul level. And and meaning just kind of like he's super into esoteric. He helps with the solving esoteric mysteries, and he's a magician and can help you link to other angels, archangels. And so for me, depending on the kind of work that I'm producing, I bring in a different field of angels who specialize in that. So I feel just like angels, there's the different orders of angels. Humans are part of that team. So so Zaphiel's like, if you feel like he's your main home slice, that whatever his role,
Home slice. Homie Sofkio,
whatever,
yes, yes.
right? So I'll give you an example. Like if you're cosmetologist, you do makeup, you do hair, often you can find up your lineage or angelic lineage is like Archangel Jophiel, who's really digging you because you are in the pursuit of bringing beauty into the world. So if you are like if you're bringing more consciousness, like Zadkiel or Raziel helps people who bring more consciousness, more mind into the world. That's part of what I do. So he's like, hey, I'm digging you. But I feel like we're part of the life stream. We're not separate from God or these angels, but we have a frequency that vibrates in alignment with some of these duties. Some like police officers might be like under Archangel Michael's charge, right? Because they're like law and order, um, and the military might also be. So it's a fun way to kind of think about your role here. Like, what are you? So tell me about what you do that you feel like Zafkiel might be like, oh, okay. So that's why he's like,
I don't really
on
know.
he's
I just so I asked the question, who are the angels? Who can you tell yourselves, show yourselves to me so I know who you are? And I got Safkiel, I got Gabriel, um, Michael, Uriel, and Raphael.
hmm Yeah. Well, I think it's a safe bet that we all have equal access, but there's some that come around a lot. So the more that if it's Zavkiel, then there's specific, like, if you constantly kind of get intuition that he's with you, you just keep, are you already channel writing? You're ready,
Automatic
kind of,
writing, I've done it
yeah.
once.
I would
Okay.
do that more. Yeah, I would do that more and just ask a little bit more. I mean, first of all, it's fun, but it's also very mind-blowing. the more the more that you do it and
Yeah.
understand that role. But a lot of people say like, okay, what angel does this and what angel does that? And like, this is who I'm going to call on for this. And sometimes there's not clear rules about that. I just say, just call on the angels that you have a resonance with, that you feel are with you, because for one reason or another, that's your team. And if you don't know who's with you, it's not required
Hmm.
to to create miracles. You don't need to know. You don't need to feel a dang thing. You don't need to see a dang thing. You can just, hey, spirit, hey, archangels, and call them in a powerful way, and see what happens. I mean, that's why I love working with angels, because it's like, well, again, I'm not a sucker, so I like proof. And so the more that you work systematically with angels, even if you don't experience a thing or do anything, the more that it will open you up to the field of miracles and just awesomeness and support. Um, I remember when I took this work online and started really trying to do work that would reach more people. It was always like a crapshoot. Like, I'm crossing my fingers, hoping it works. Like, hey guys, hey angels, you better deliver some goods. And I was like, so like my mind was blown that even with the very first offering, which was called the 7-Day Miracle Challenge, even with that first offering, I think 1,000 people took it quickly, like within the first month. And we were getting so much response from incredible healing that happened. And I just it was like so mind-blowing, because prior to that point, every angel experience that I witnessed for someone else was in my office, or like I knew them one-on-one privately. So I wasn't sure that the angels would translate over oceans or through a 7-day series. I wasn't sure, but we co-produced it, we co-created it. And that's so much what I love about angels, is that they work for anyone who kind of puts the effort into it. And you don't have to even fully believe in anything. You can just, if you have a slightly open mind, just slightly open, then it's there for you.
Yeah, just ask, right?
Just ask, man. I mean, there's no harm.
Yeah, I remember asking for a dream to be sent to me and to be woken up from it, because this was after attending a webinar from Karen Noe, an amazing medium who teaches how to receive messages from loved ones and who have passed, and from angels. And I had the most incredible, beautiful, comforting, and awe-inspiring dream I'd ever had. I'll never forget it. And I just asked for it. All I did was ask for it. I never had a dream like that. I haven't had one since. That was a few months ago. I haven't had a dream like that, but yeah, wow, amazing. So just ask for a without a doubt sign, some sort of something that will help bolster your beliefs if you're unsure, if you need some confirmation or some reassurance, and it'll show up for you.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's like, I think we're just so used to feeling like we have to do everything the hard way and have to work hard and are alone, you know. And I think that was the mind blowing thing for me, is that I realized how not alone I was when that miracle happened, and how not alone any of us are. Because if the angels really came through for me at that moment, and again, my life was dark, so dark at the time. So if they were there for me, they're literally there for anybody.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
there for all of us.
All of us. And you don't have to, you know, again, be a pious person. You don't have to go to church. You know, I mean, you can do those things, but I think so many humans, like, we X ourselves out of the game of spirituality because we think what we're doing is not, um, doesn't match up to what's required to to have that spiritual love in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see so many rules and grow up with so many rules around it. So it was real eye opening for me
Yeah.
that, you know, spirituality was not as judgy. Authentic spirituality, what I consider authentic spirituality, is not as judgy as how many of us were raised.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
resonate with that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing. And I remember like doing sessions for people who were overtly not doing great things in their life, like prostituting and doing all kinds of stuff. And gosh, you know, when I connecting with the angels and with God, it was never ever mean. It was never ever mean. It wasn't like, you know, repent. It was never, you know, you're dancing with the devil, girl. Like, it was never like that. And I was like, wow, I am digging this. And I just really wish, I've seen a lot, you know, Stephan, over the last years of doing this. And I get a lot of hate mail, you know, from the, you know, born again Christians, from the, you know, from the extreme fundamentalists. And I always feel so sad for them that they they God, it's like they're just reading the book. That they're not, they're reading a really tiny part of the book, but they're not having the experience of love. Like, they're not connecting. And it's so sad to me that people who consider themselves like so connected to Jesus or God don't actually have like the love in their heart. They don't have the thing, and that thing is hard to describe. But when you get that thing, you have a hard time judging,
Yeah.
you know. And I know some really amazing Christians who are mystics as well, and who have had that love experience that really dissolves so much of the programming, I guess,
Yeah.
was the best way I can say it. So I pray for those people when I get the hate mail, I just like, I just thought the best I could do is pray for them, ask angels to help them,
Yeah.
like, just have love in their heart, you
Yeah.
know.
Send them light.
I know, but there's, you know, again, there's so many traumatized people out there. We just need help.
Yeah.
We need help.
And it's good practice for us too uh, to practice unconditional love.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a master at it, because I find them, to be honest, like, annoying. I roll my like, okay, here's another one. All right. But, you know, there's a paradox inside of all of us. I have the sassy part of me who's just like, you know, hey, I grew up, you know, I was in the hood for many years, so I still got that part of me that's like, I might slash your tires. But I might. You never know. You never know. But on a good day, I'm just going to pray for you instead. Um, but, you know, yeah, you know, so on the one hand, got the paradox, but yeah, I understand why they're like this, right?
Yeah.
They've been traumatized, gaslighted their whole life with some, you know, narcissistic abuse that they call their religion.
But even if they hadn't been, even if there was no excuse for that behavior, a recent epiphany I had was to see the hand of God in all of it, everything that happens,
Mm-hmm.
even the tragedies, even the atrocities, even the hatred for no reason, to see
Mm-hmm.
the hand of God in all of it, so that we can look past the surface level of it. Like, what's the message here? What's the lesson? What's the gift that's being given to me by this person
Mm-hmm.
who's just trolling me out of the blue? Like, why is this happening? Is a question you could ask. But a better question might be, why is God sending this to me through this person?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this
So
person being
speaking of
a messenger for something that I don't really want right now? But, you know,
yeah, I think, it's that's interesting. And that, that's one way to look at it. And sometimes I think that's appropriate. Sometimes it's not appropriate. If someone's raped, I think it's okay to just be raped and be victimized by that, right? And let yourself, you don't have to see the hand of God in that. You can just go, that was fucked up and I need to heal from this, right? So sometimes that mindset can be counterproductive. But I think when it comes to certain things like the trolling or whatever, like it always helps us to know our potential to move past things. So tell me, when you get trolled, where's God's hands? Like, what have you discovered through that process?
well, so the way that I'm receiving this is actually when, let's say, my wife gets mad at me out of the blue, or I interpret it as being out of the blue. So it's somebody who's close to me. It's not actually, I'm not getting people trolling me yet, but
No,
not often, very
even
very
blessing.
rarely. But I know it's coming, it's coming. But the stuff that comes from your close family, from your intimate partner,
Interesting.
those sorts of seeming injustices and so forth are actually
Mm-hmm.
to build you up and to prepare you for, like, it's so much safer to receive that from your intimate partner, your soulmate, than to receive it from some person randomly from a crowd, right? So you can cope with that better, get more acclimated to receiving criticism or judgment or whatever it is. And of course, we're always trying to be our best selves in relationship with the other person. But I was reading a book by Rabbi Arish, I think it's called. It's not The Garden of Amuna. It's his other book, specifically for men. I forget the name of it. I'll find it and include it in the show notes. But there's stuff in that book that was meant for me to read. I knew it was meant for me to read. Like, I would randomly open it up to a certain page because I didn't want to read the whole book. I rarely read the entire books. I just have a problem with that. But I'll open it up to some random spot, and it's not random. It's exactly the thing I need to get at that moment. I love that. That just seems to happen all the time now for me. And there's this one section talking about, this is stuff that you're going to receive from your wife, and she's never at fault. This is for you from the Creator,
Mm-hmm.
and you're blessed to receive it from her rather than from your client, your customer, your
Mm-hmm.
boss. That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
harder to heal from or cope with or whatever. So that's been helpful for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just, we can choose to have some level of agency and to make meaning. And I think that's humans have that unique capacity to make meaning out of just really devastating experiences. And if you can get really good at it, it helps build resilience, right? And which is kind of one of the goals while we're here.
Mm.
But yeah, my trolls, I mean, I have official trolls. It all started with the family. Those are my first trolls, and right. And then you learn really quick who to talk to and who not to talk to. Not everybody has to know your business. You just have to, share with safe people what you're up to, and then they can figure it out once you've, made international acclaim what you're up to, which is what happened for half of my family.
Oh, that's
Uh,
funny.
then they're like, "What are you doing?"
That might have been awkward.
Like, I know, it's so funny. Like, what? You have a book? They all thought I was just a therapist. I'm like, well, um, but but yeah. So yeah, dealing with the family is really a rite of passage, I think.
Yeah.
And it does prepare you for on some level. Again, with discernment
Mhm.
and boundaries
Yeah.
and those kinds of
And
things, which you really
calibration.
need. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You really need all those things, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna make a little splash in your side of the pond.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I know we're at time here. So if our listener wants to learn more from you, learn how to connect further with their angels and to receive messages and to become more of who they were meant to be, how do they work with you? How do they follow you? How do they join your inner sanctum community and all that? Oh, and I think you
Yeah.
also have that 7-day challenge as well that they could maybe partake in.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it even. The 7-Day Miracle Challenge is um, the first co-creation for me and the angels, and it's really sweet daily practice of opening up your lives and healing, detoxing, if you will, so that you can come in closer contact with angels, or at least have a fuller experience of coming into contact with angels. So that's a free gift, and that you can find that at the number 7, 7-day-miracle-challenge.com. Or you can go to my website, CorinGrillo.com, and there's other, things hanging out there. The Inner Sanctum, which is our year-round membership community where we get, every Sunday we have a new activation, a new angel healing and meditation. There's also some intuitive healing courses that I have produced along the way that people can now do and download anywhere from a 3-hour channeling class to 7-week class. So depending on what people are interested in, but I definitely recommend the 7-Day Miracle Challenge to get everyone started.
That's awesome. Thank you, Corinne. And I am very excited for our listener who's gone through the whole episode to this part. I think that they're ready for a breakthrough. I think something miraculous is going to happen to this person who's listening right now. And yes, that's you, a listener. So take some profound and powerful action, like say a prayer asking for your angels to speak to you, give you a message, somehow communicate with you. And I think you're going to be surprised with what you get.
It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't stop. Ask all day, every day.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you, Corinne. Thank you, listener. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host,
Thank you.
Stephan Spencer, signing off.